empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point 8 to 20 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Hang on one second. I gotta get the camera fixed real quick. We have some crazy news to report. The Dylan Raiola situation is going on. Absolutely nutty weekend. We lost the #1 quarterback in the country. But with that being said, I am not too concerned about it. I know a lot of people are bent because losing a guy who is a franchise type guy is always kind of rough. But, you know, with Ryan Day at the helm, you have to remember, since 2012 with Braxton Miller at quarterback, we have had the first team all Big Ten quarterback every single year. 10 straight years. Like, that's the most unbelievable streak in Big Ten history, given, you know, how good Michigan is and Penn State, and the fact that we've had a monopoly on that position. It really keeps me at ease at quarterback. You know, Dylan Raiola, obviously, his dad is a Nebraska legacy. He's one of probably the 50 or 25 best players in Nebraska history, a major award winner, all-century team guy. His uncle is there. I think a lot of things changed with Matt Rule coming in. And also, you know, again, there's just something went wrong. Something, you know, on Ohio State's end or on Dylan's end switched. And, you know, we have plenty of time to get things fixed. And with the transfer portal, honest to God, it really doesn't matter at this point. Because if we don't have a quarterback room we like, guess what? We'll go get a guy like Justin Fields like we did when we didn't like the Tate Martell situation. So, again, guys, rest easy. We'll be okay. That being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for all that you guys do. We appreciate your support of the channel. The channel has been fantastic. So thank you guys. We are growing like crazy. So we thank you. With that being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend, TJ Downing. TJ, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. This segment, TJ Downing, brought to you by Labatt Blue. So enjoy your night, guys. Sunday night, NFL. Browns got a victory yesterday on the flex day in the NFL. And hey, you mentioned Justin Fields, man. I'm hoping he's all right. I saw him. He kind of tweaked his hamstring and ended up coming back into the game. But, you know, again, no sweat. I mean, there's going to be plenty of recruits out there, plenty of guys to come through. So this is just another bump in the road, and it happens.
Yeah, for me, I know Dylan Raiola is a guy that a lot of people are looking forward to. Honestly, the thing about the Ohio State position right now at quarterback, with the way we're recruiting at wide receiver, we're going to sign Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate this week. They're the two top receivers in the country. They are both 5 stars, really good friends, played together on South Florida Express. They're coming in. And then the following year, we're bringing in JJ Smith, who's probably better than either of them. He is the #2 player in the country, wide receiver, freak show, absolute monster. So, you know, whoever shows up as a freshman for Dylan is going to have some incredible guys to throw to. And the thing about the quarterback room is, as teams have seen, things change fast. You know, Oklahoma had Caleb Williams last year as a freshman. He was fantastic. Lincoln Riley took off. Caleb went with him. So Caleb wins the Heisman at USC as a sophomore. So
pretty good
things
choice.
Change. Yeah. I mean, again, like as coaches move, as situations change, things can change at the drop of a hat. I think that when Scott Frost was at Nebraska, they weren't as appealing. I think, you know, teams to watch for Dylan Raiola, in my opinion, are the Nebraska Cornhuskers, the Georgia Bulldogs, and USC. But I think with Malachi Nelson, who's the #1 quarterback in the class of 2023, Dylan Raiola, you know, he wants to start as a freshman. He wants to be the man. You know, you got to look at the path of least resistance. Obviously, that looks like that would be Nebraska because they'll promise him the sun, the moon, and the stars. He will get a fortune in NIL there. You know, Georgia is a school that he was really fond of. He was a big Georgia fan growing up. He used to wear a lot of Georgia gear. So I'd look out for those guys. And, you know, SC was a team that made a big impact on him. But, you know, again, they have a phenom coming in as a true freshman. He'll sit this year behind Caleb Williams. And then as a true sophomore, he'll be ready to take the reins. So, again, with the quarterback deal, there's only one that plays. So you got to look at how things line up. And the 3 reasons I don't really care about losing Dylan Raiola is because, for one, I think Devin Brown's really good. Between Devin Brown, Kyle McCord, the kid that we're going to sign out of South Dakota, we're going to have a guy. One of those guys will end up being good. And if they're not good, then guess what? Ryan Day will go in the transfer portal and get somebody who's good. Because, when you look around and you look at the situation Ohio State's in, they play in the Big Ten. So you're going to have better players than everybody you play, except Michigan, who have equal talent. You're going to have the best receiving room in the country over the next 3 to 4 years with Ennis Tate. I mean, next year, you've got Marvin coming back in and back are probably the top 2 receivers in the country. And then following that, you're going to have Ennis Tate. Then you're going to bring in J.J. Smith. I mean, it's an unbelievable, talented group, a very strong group, a very hardworking group. And you can go after guys in the portal. I mean, there was rumors that we went after Drake May in the portal. I mean, that was something that I've heard. I don't want to go there, but I mean, that kid's probably going to be the first pick in the draft next year. He's at North Carolina. That might have shook some situations up. I mean, we don't know. But again, Ryan Day went after Malik Willis when he was in the portal. He's ultra aggressive at improving his quarterback room because he needs to have one lead dog. He needs a Justin Fields, a Dwayne Haskins, a CJ Stroud, a first-round pick.
He needs that Quinn Ewers, man. I got my burnt orange on for Quinn Ewers.
Well, I mean, Quinn, again, and Quinn's a guy that, if he would have stayed here, he would have sat for 2 years, maybe started next year, but instead he moved to Texas, started this year, got his NFL stats up, balled out against Bama. He's been kind of up and
he's overrated.
Nah, I think he's actually really good. And NFL scouts do too. He'll probably end up being a first-round pick next year. Him, Caleb Williams, Drake May.
You know a lot about offensive tackles, man. When it comes to quarterbacks, I mean, come on now, man. Listen, for me, Quinn Ewers is the perfect thing to compare this to because if Raiola is saying that he wants to come in here and start as a true freshman, we all know that is way. I mean, it's got to be out of the ordinary for something like that to happen. Thinking that you've got Kyle McCord sitting here coming back, who has plenty of talent. Devin Brown is already on the roster. I mean, come on, to think that you're just going to come in. And I know that the situation with Quinn last year, where he's saying, "Oh, am I going to play this year? Am I going to get any snaps because this NIL money and this and that and whatever check needs to be cashed and you have to play a certain amount of reps?" That's understandable. But listen, a lot of freshmen are not ready to come in and start right away. I don't care, if you're the number 1 recruit in the country or not. I mean, let's talk about Lincoln. You got Lincoln, who's committed in coming in the following year. I know he's only a 3-star guy, but and for me, really, you mentioned something, Kirk, and I loved your guys here chiming in. We had a bunch of people watching us here on the YouTube stream, but Barry McCockiner. So Barry McCockiner, a guy dropping some lines over here on the comment list, said that is the hype with Kyle Rule or with Matt Rule, is that real? Because you're sitting here saying that because they got rid of their coach and now they bring in this guy who's got some NFL experience, that all of a sudden Raiola wants to think about Nebraska. Nebraska has been hot garbage as of recent, and I get it. NIL money, you throw that at them, and it's a reason to go there. You got your family that's on the coaching staff. That's a reason to go there. But I mean, USC, Alabama, Ohio State. If you're going to decommit from Ohio State, why are you not looking at one of those other options? To me, and now this would be great for Nebraska. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this puts them back in the game, but you got to put a whole lot of other pieces together because it's going to take way more than just the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country for Nebraska to be able to get out of the hole that they've dug themselves into. So to me, I don't buy into all this stuff that, looking at Raiola's stats. I mean, this year, 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I mean, I see better than that in Northeast Ohio. I get it. He's a talented player. There's the measurables that are there. He's what is he, about 6'3", 220 pounds. He's thick. He's got a cannon. But I mean, how much greater is the talent that he's going against down there in the Chandler, Arizona area compared to what some of these other guys have already seen? So it's really hard to say, Kirk. You and I have both seen great All-Americans that have come into Ohio State out of high school, and they never played a down. So let's think about that too. You never know really how this guy is going to pan out.
Well, I think that a quarterback is all about his infrastructure. I think quarterbacks can start as true freshmen now because they're so much more advanced than they were even 10 years ago with the private coaching, with year-round training, with 7-on-7. These guys are like Caleb Williams started as a true freshman at Oklahoma. moved on to SC, won the Heisman as a true sophomore. You know, when we played, that didn't happen. You didn't see the guys do that quite as much, and for whatever reason, it was something. Camera bugged. For whatever reason, it just was a lot harder for it to happen because there just wasn't as much development. There wasn't as much personal training. There wasn't as much year-round strength training. And these guys all have personal
quarterback coaches, clinics, all that stuff, man.
yeah, quarterback coaches, agents. I mean, it's just the game, especially at the quarterback position. There's so much money on the line at the quarterback position because you got to get in, you got to get rolling. I think what Quinn Ewers did, leaving high school year early, starting his eligibility clock. He shredded Alabama as a freshman. I think they're going to get some guys at the portal. I think they're going to build that lineup. He's going to lose Bijan and his receiver, but he's going to be going pro after next year as a 20-year-old. So if he does well, he's a free agent at 24, 25. So that's huge when you're a quarterback. And again, when you're a quarterback, you don't have to win. You don't have to be, some national champion, Heisman winner. Like Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he was like 4-8 his senior year at Wyoming. It's terrible. Jalen Hurts had to leave Alabama to start at Oklahoma. He's going to win the MVP this year. Joe Burrow had to leave Ohio State to go to LSU. In his fourth year, he was not good at LSU. Nobody thought he was hoping to be a 7th-round pick camp arm going into his senior year. Then he took a limitless pill and he became the greatest college quarterback who ever lived. Again, you just have to play. Joe Flacco couldn't beat out Tyler Palko and went to Delaware, and he's still playing. I mean, he's like 16, 17 years in. So, it's one of those things where you just got to get on the field and play. And I think Matt Rule, for as much as people dog about his NFL program and the Carolina Panthers and whatever, where he never had a quarterback. He was Cam Newton at the end of his tenure. Darnold, Baker Mayfield. He never had like the guy. And in the NFL, you need a quarterback to be great. That's the only way you can. If you're going to be any good, look at the Bengals. They had Joe Burrow. They're one of the best teams in the AFC. Look at the top of the AFC. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Josh Allen. That's what you need to be successful in the NFL. And in college, you look at Matt Rule, his reclamation projects at Temple, turned them from complete 1-11-ish to winning their conference. Baylor, turned them around in a huge way before he was off to Carolina to make a fortune because they
never had a quarterback drafted though. Henry California is saying Matt Rule never had a quarterback drafted.
Yeah, I mean, but you can have quarterbacks that work in college that aren't NFL guys. JT Barrett won 3 silver footballs. He didn't get drafted. Troy Smith was like a 6th-round pick, and he's one of the best players in Ohio State history. It's, in college, it's kind of like when there's Christian Laettner was an incredible college basketball player that he didn't turn into Tim Duncan in the NBA. So there's some guys that what's up?
Had a nice career though. Stuck around the league for about 15 years.
So did Drew Stanton. Drew Stanton played like 16 years in the league, and like that doesn't mean that he was like all world whatever, but.
Chad Henne was getting snaps last year, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, Chad Henne was a 2nd-round pick, but I mean, there's guys that are undrafted that stick around. I mean, look at Brock Purdy. I mean, he's Matt Campbell's boy, and he's the last pick of the draft, and he's going to end up playing 15 years in the league off of this 1 year where he's really doing good for the 49ers. But I think, with Rule, I think it. It's funny people say, I get he wasn't great in Carolina, but. There's guys that aren't great in the NFL that could come back to college, build a program. And again, it's never been easier to build a program than it is right now because you have the NIL, you have transfer portal. I mean, like Lincoln Riley. You got to remember how bad USC was when they fired everybody and they went out and threw the bag at Lincoln Riley. Lincoln took like 30 guys in the portal, cleaned up the bottom of that roster, took a ton of freshmen. And he's going to churn the bottom of that roster just like you do like a bad NFL team. Like you look at a bad NFL team, they churn the bottom of their roster constantly, trying to find guys that can play. And that's how you could do it in college now. And I think Matt Rule with the amount of money, and again, I know it's not South Beach or A&M, but there's money in Nebraska. I mean, Warren Buffett was in Nebraska. there's a lot of alums there that are really wealthy, and I know two
A
of
lot of
them.
corn out there, man. They sell a lot of corn in Nebraska.
Shit, they sell a lot of trucks. They sell all kinds of stuff. I mean, again, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men on earth, lives in Omaha. So it's like, he's a big Nebraska fan. So I don't know. I think it can happen. But the things I don't worry about with quarterbacks and Ryan Day is, you can go get a guy who's a star in the MAC or a star in the SEC. And those guys are always going to be moving and looking to better their situation. And there's no better situation over the next 3 to 4 years than Ohio State. Because again, we've got like next year, if I'm Drake May at North Carolina and I see that I could throw it to Marvin Harrison Jr. And I know obviously he's a legacy at Carolina. It's not going to happen. But if I could throw it to Marvin Harrison in a Mecca and have Ryan Day coaching me, and he's had Dwayne, Justin, CJ all go, high first round. I mean, if I'm a quarterback, I'm considering that. Because again, you're a product of your infrastructure most of the time. Your life's always easier when you have better players around you. And I think that's the thing about when you're at Ohio State, the way that Brian Hartline recruits wide receivers. Because again, like, you say, oh, you're going to lose Marvin and Emeka after you. But yeah, then you're going to have Tate and Ennis ready to go. JJ Smith's going to come in as a freshman. He'll start as a freshman because he's that good. No, he'll be the number one player maybe in the entire country. The only guy who's higher than him is Dylan. And if they reshuffle the ranks, he could take the number one spot because JJ is really, really good. But I don't know. It's just like I don't worry about losing kids as much anymore because the portal is the ultimate weapon when it comes to securing a free agent, securing a really good MAC player who could play in the Big Ten. You look at Ivan Pace from Cincinnati, who came from, I think, was it Miami of Ohio, went to Cincinnati. He was the first unanimous All-American in Cincinnati Bearcat history as a linebacker. He'd have started at Ohio State this year if we had gotten him. So I don't know. TJ, your thoughts on, how much does recruiting matter anymore? Because when a kid can leave or a kid, like when is our age, it was like, come in as a freshman, a sophomore. Okay, we got Shane Olivier in front of me, sit for a year, wait my turn, go start whatever, or, BB or Stepanovich or whoever. And then after that, it's cleared out and go. Now, a coach could go out and recruit an All-American guard and slide him into your spot if he doesn't think you're good enough. Or he could go out and recruit. I mean, Ohio State just hosted 3 offensive linemen over the weekend. They're trying to find tackles for next year. And, there's guys that are waiting around, trying to figure out if they're going to be the starters next year, probably working towards that, and they're out getting guys that are your age. What would your reaction have been, if they brought in a third-year sophomore guard who was all Pac-12 or all MAC, whatever, all Big Ten, and they brought him in to try to replace you, and he's your age?
Let's say, hey, you better step your game up, son. Seven Deuce is bringing it all the time. No, honestly, Kirk, I mean, to me, I think back at my recruiting process coming out of high school, and I probably could have been a guy that maybe would have went to Kent State or Bowling Green. Actually, my first scholarship I was ever offered was from Urban Meyer when he was at Bowling Green. So I could have gone to a MAC school and potentially started 3 or 4 years there. And to now think that you go there and you start a year or two and, hey, I can just up and transfer out, maybe go look to play at USC or Bama or Georgia, one of these, big time premier schools in the country. That just, it changes the entire landscape. I think this makes it way harder on coaches now. You have so much more to look at. But I mean, that's great, but it's just more time consuming. It's a larger job. It's a larger group of guys that you have to sift through their skill set. I mean, it almost feels like you're more of like a NFL scout.
So, but no, I think it's a good point. The hardest part for me is like when you're coaching is that you have to deal with these kids that are, how hard can you coach a kid when you know that he can take off immediately? I don't know. It's weird to me when you've got a situation where guys are, I don't know. Like, can you really get after a kid if you know that he can leave immediately?
No, I mean, it changes the way you coach, man. I mean, you got to be softer on guys, and that's not good, especially up front in the trenches. I mean, if you're worried about, hurting somebody's feelings, this is the wrong game to be in. And it just goes to show you the landscape and how it's changed. So for me, I would hate to be a coach. I would hate to be a defensive coach right now. just because of how they call things with the targeting. I mean, it's just, I constantly go back to the Clemson game and when Trevor Lawrence just kind of, cowered down, and it almost was like he worked himself into that helmet to helmet shot, and there's so many different things that we can look at now that have kind of made this game softer. It just made it more different than from what we played in and the landscape we played in. But to me, it's more of a technical game now, and it's not as much of the tough ass, nasty attitude from guys. And I think you're taken away from it. It's become more patty cake, and I think they're too quick to call flags, and you're too quick to call home to mommy because the offensive line coach or the linebacker coach chewed your ass out today because you didn't get the job done. That's part of the deal, man.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things now for coaches is that they can't get after kids anymore. Now it's more like, okay, we're in this together, and I mean, there's yeah, again the weird dynamic, and this is how it is now. But like, there's players that make more than coaches now on the college team, which is like, it's crazy, but that's just how it is. Like, when guys are rolling up in Bentleys and G wagons, and the coaches are rolling up in and these coaches make a fortune compared to when we were played, which again, that wasn't that long ago, but like, Jim Bowman, his last year at Ohio State made 350 grand. That's what the special teams guy makes now. So it's like, coordinators are making 2.5 million. So I mean, literally the salaries in 10 years have gone up 8x, 8 times. So it's weird. And again, like, is that part of it? Like, does the bubble ever burst? I don't know. The TV contracts keep going up, playoffs expand. Like at some point, like you got to pay the players, because like when we played, like we didn't have to play in a conference championship game. We'd have to play in 2 playoff games. Like we didn't have to play in. Now it's gonna be 3 playoff games potentially. So now you're gonna have these kids play in a conference championship, and then they're gonna play in a 12-game playoff where they have to play 3 rounds potentially. If you're a lower seed and you got to play in that opening round, you don't get a bye, dude. Then you got to run the table and play 3 straight games to win a national title. So, I mean, that season you're looking at 13. You're looking at a 16-game season in college. So it's like at some point you just gonna start paying the guys, and the cartel's gonna die. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see what Ryan Day can do at quarterback. I think that the hardest part about recruiting quarterbacks now is that you have to jump into bed with these kids so fast, because you gotta offer them when they're sophomores, or else you're not going to be in the game for them, because they commit when they're sophomores going into their junior year. And if you jump in with a kid like you did Dylan Raiola, and you don't recruit anybody else, because when you get a guy like Dylan Raiola, you can't talk to anybody else. You can't keep anybody else warm, because it's like a marriage. Like you say, okay, I'm taking one quarterback. That's it. It's over. What are you going to do in the 23 class? We're just going to kind of take like a placeholder kind of guy. We're not going to go after a showstopper. We're not going to go after Malachi Nelson. So, okay, not going to go in the portal, whatever. And then, you get to that 24 class, and you're like, okay, we got Dylan. So he's going to scare off all the kids in the 23 class. But then Dylan bails on you. It's hard. And again, like, you put the coaches in a tough situation, because, they have a word. Dylan has a word, but if Ryan Day was out shopping in the portal for a 23 kid to compete for next year, screw it. I mean, you kind of have to, because Ryan Day's job's on the line next year. And I know people think that's nuts, but like, you lose to Michigan 3 straight years, man. That's a tough gig. I mean, he's gonna go up to Ann Arbor next year. Ann Arbor just got 3 new O linemen in their transfer portal class. Yeah, so I mean, it's winning in Ann Arbor is hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. And it's like last time we were up there, we got waxed. So, I mean, it's going to be a big year for us. So if I'm Ryan, I'm like, screw it. I might not be here in 24. I got to go get me a quarterback. So I might have to call Drake May. I might have to see if there's a superstar out there that wants to come through it to Marvin and Emeka. Because, again, you got Trey Henderson, Marvin, and Emeka, which is the best trio of skill guys you could ever dream of in college football. And, if you're Ryan, like, I'd call Drake May. Screw it. He's only going to be there for 1 year. He won't intercept Dylan Raiola at all, because Dylan will come in as a freshman. But the problem is if you do that, you're going to lose Devin Brown. You're going to lose Kyle McCord. So it's like, it literally is like diffusing a bomb or tap dancing on a minefield when you have this quarterback juggling competition where you're just like, God, who do I mean, is Devin Brown and Kyle McCord, are they good enough to win us a national championship next year as first-year guys? or do I go get a guy
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
experienced?
yeah, they are. And I mean, don't you want to give first sniff to Kyle McCord just because he's already been throwing balls to these guys in practice? He's already been running reps with these guys that are going to be coming back that are supposed to be this trio of badass wide receivers. I want Kyle McCord, the guy who's probably got the best gel, the best feel and vibe with these guys. He's been around them in the locker room. He's been in the huddle with them. It's tough to say how a quarterback is going to pan out until they're actually thrown in the fire. I think back at what Terrell Pryor did, and Terrell, he came out on fire, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's just always going to be sunshine and rainbows. And I'm like, no, 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 wait, just hold on a second, because eventually you're going to have a game where it's going to hit you. And you're going to find out that you're playing primetime Division I college football. And when he went up to Purdue, he got bit. That was the first time we found out that Terrell Pryor was not invincible. And somebody even mentioned on the comment chat line over here about Craig Krenzel. How many people thought that Justin Zwick was going to come in there and start as a true freshman? I mean, they're saying just in time, and nobody even thought about Troy Smith. I mean, he was the 25th dude that we signed in our recruiting class, and he came in as an athlete, so he wasn't even listed as a quarterback. But people are talking about Justin's going to come in, start as a true freshman. Craig Krenzel sat there and said, I know these guys in this locker room. I know my capabilities. I know what I can do. And he beat out Scott McMullen. And Scott McMullen was a really good quarterback as well. But Craig Krenzel kind of caught everybody off guard. And look what he did. So who's to say that Kyle McCord doesn't come in there next year and do some Craig Krenzel type shit? I mean, it could happen.
Oh, I mean, anything can happen. Like that's the thing about college football is like again, but if something happened that made Dylan flip from being the lead recruiter in the class to all of the sudden being out of the class. So whatever it was, there was some break in trust or there was some change in circumstance, whatever it was. But with Ryan's history and how aggressive he is in the portal, especially at quarterback, he goes out and gets Justin Fields. Because again, he knew Tate Martell. He knew the guys that were on that roster. And he said, you know what? We can't win with these guys. I got to go get Justin Fields. So when I got Justin Fields, 2 years, first round pick, fantastic. One of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in school history. Has CJ lined up before last year. He's going after Malik Willis, who ended up being like a 3rd round pick. It was projected to be a 1st round pick. Didn't have a great postseason after he declared for the draft. That was a guy but Ryan went after him because he had 4 freshmen in the room. He needed a veteran. At Ohio State, you can't just wait around for a freshman to figure it out. Thankfully CJ, he did, and he had maybe the best receiving core we've ever had with Garrett, Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin. Just a gross amount of talent. Emeka. I mean, those are our 5 wide receivers. Those guys could literally all be 1st round picks. And then from there, you get to this year, you got CJ. They tried to start the clock early on Quinn. They wanted to get Quinn Ewers in to get him ready to go, just in case he was better than CJ, because I don't think they were sold on CJ going into camp. So they got Quinn in there. He, again, they had him. He graduated early. He started learning the plays and all that. But again, like when CJ ends up being a Heisman finalist as a redshirt freshman, Quinn's not going to wait around for 2 years to play. And again, he shouldn't. In college football, if you're a quarterback, you just got to go throw the ball somewhere. Trey Lance went before Justin Fields, and he was playing at North Dakota State. So, he went 3rd overall in the draft. So you have to throw the ball somewhere to somebody to get evaluated and to go 3 and out. So Quinn took off, went to Texas. He's the bona fide started there for another year. Then, Arch will take over after next year. And then, CJ's out after this year. So you got McCord and Devin Brown battling. Lincoln's going to get here when he gets here. I'm not sure he's going to be an early entry. I hope he's an early entry. But I could just see Ryan sifting around the portal for next year. Because look, man, next year is a make or break year for Ryan. And it's hard to say that. He just signed a big extension, but we got a tough schedule next year. We got to play at Notre Dame. We've got Wisconsin at Wisconsin. And we've got Michigan at Michigan. So, that's, and we only have 6 home games. Like this year we had 8 home games. This year was kind of set up to be the year for success and the year for the big push, because we had the quarterback coming back, all the momentum against Michigan, because we got waxed by them, but they lost Aiden Hutchinson, had him at home. So new coordinator, and it fell apart. But the amazing thing is we still have a chance to win a national championship. We have a chance to be the great. I mean, literally, this team could literally go down as the greatest team in Ohio State history, which it sounds stupid to even say that after they lost to Michigan. But look, if these guys beat Georgia and then they go to Los Angeles and they beat Michigan for the national title, they have to be the greatest team in school history.
Or TCU.
Or TCU. I mean, whoever. I mean, but it's like, it's just the way if the stars are aligned right and we can go down to Georgia and get the Bulldogs and then we see Michigan, I mean, that would be, the ultimate FU to everybody that's down to this team. And those guys are, their mind's all on Georgia. And again, that's going to be just a monumentally tough task because Georgia is no joke. They're fantastic. But, you gotta go day by day. And again, the crazy thing is that game's in 14 days. That's in 2 weeks, which is, it's just weird because like you just feel like, the Big Ten championship game, just all the championships, and they just picked it. But these coaches, they have to go recruit because of the early signing day. So they're not just hanging out at the Woody having bowl practice every day like in the olden days when we played. Like these coaches are out on the road hollering at these kids because they have signing day on Wednesday. Like we didn't sign until the middle of February. So they had all kinds of time in January to go out and chill and go see the players and whatever. But now these guys are they're burying it at both ends. TJ, that was a long-winded vibe, but would this team be the best team in school history if they beat Georgia and Michigan and won a national title?
No. Even if they beat TCU and win a national title, they won't be the best team in school history. But what I will say, first off, is maybe the Buckeyes can take Charlie Daniels down there with them, man. The devil went down to Georgia. You got to go down there and get it done. Anything is possible. If they play the way they did in the second half against Michigan, you're going to get smoked. So hopefully here over the last couple of weeks, they figured some things out, and here over the next 2 weeks, they'll continue to tighten things up. One thing I will mention, our guy Dr. Scott 614 on here talked about too on the comment. You want to know what happened with Dylan? Nobody knows the real story unless you ask Coach Day or you ask Dylan himself. But I think it's probably safe to say that now with the NIL landscape, it was financially motivated. I mean, you talk about coaches going out here on recruiting trips now. I mean, they should be driving a Brinks truck because it's all about who can come up with the most paper. That's the ball game that we are playing in now. I mean, Kirk, you're coming out of Perry High School, and Warren Buffett hits you up and says, "Come play for Texas El Paso, and we'll give you $3 million. You going, or are you going to Ohio State?"
Yeah, I mean, this happened to our running back. It happened to Mark Fletcher. Mark Fletcher got $3 million. He got $750,000 up front to flip from Ohio State to Florida. So, I mean, if I can get my mom $3 million to play for the Florida Gators, absolutely I'm going there. I wouldn't even remember where Ohio State was. And I think any other kid who's trying to take care of their family is going to do the same thing. And again, it's sad, but and I hate talking about NIL, but like, dude, you can change your mom's life. I mean, you can pay her house off. You can, give her a little stipend. I mean, hell, it's just crazy. And there's kids that are the quarterbacks are getting 5-10 million, So, I mean, and again, people say, well, it's not a lot of money. Well, I mean, it is to me. I think $10 million is a lot of money. It's a shitload of money, but that's just the thing that, is part of the gig now where, when you look at these, you look at these crazy numbers that are being thrown around by some of these schools like Florida, by Miami, by A&M, like you got to compete with that. And again, not every kid's getting an NIL check. I mean, in fact, I'd say 98% of them aren't getting NIL money. But, the top 2%, if it's a quarterback, because again, like if I'm Nebraska and I'm Matt Rule, and if there's anything I can do to change the trajectory and the excitement of this program and the donor base and fundraising, it's landing Dylan Raiola. Now, most of the time, like a legacy offensive lineman isn't going to spit out a generational quarterback, but this just happened to happen. Like the stars aligned, and this kid is, he's really good. And now, are we going to die if we don't get him? No, we never do. I mean, there's never been a recruit or a player that's graduated or gone pro that we haven't replaced in the history of Ohio State. Ohio State is like it's a juggernaut of a program that just keeps moving forward Doesn't matter who we lose. Doesn't matter if we lose Terrell Pryor. Doesn't matter if we lose Dwayne Haskins. If we lose Dwayne Haskins, we get Justin Fields. We lose Justin Fields, we get CJ Stroud. If we lose CJ Stroud, we'll have somebody who's really good. So life will be
I know
fine.
this much. If we wouldn't have had Maurice Claret in 2002, we wouldn't have won a national championship.
Yeah, but that team was, that was a really good team. But I mean,
It was a great
offense.
team, man. But it was a great team, but we don't win with Mo Hall and Lydell Ross at tailback. Just saying.
I agree.
Well, if we would have lost Maurice Claret in this landscape with the NIL, if somebody would have came and pulled Maurice Claret away from us, I think that, think about what that can change for a team. That potentially takes a national championship off of the table. So, what we're seeing now is just, yeah, Mike Dawson, man, Brad, yeah, that defense, you talk about maybe the greatest defense ever. Whew, that was a nasty defense. But again, I still don't think that you can consider this team, if they win the national championship this year, I don't know if I say that they're the best team in Ohio State history. I don't.
I don't know. If they beat Georgia and Michigan in the national championship, that'd be as impressive of a stretch. Even if they don't win the Big Ten, obviously they can't win the Big Ten. But I don't know. I think that if they do that, who else would be in the discussion? The O2 team went undefeated, only 14-0.
1968 team, pretty
68
good.
team, obviously that's probably that is the greatest Ohio State team of all time. 14 is probably behind 68 and 02, I'd imagine. But I don't know, man. It's like if you
think about what we were talking about the other night, that if we had beat Florida, we'd have probably gone down as the greatest team in college football history.
Yeah. Again, I don't think we're not going to be above the 0-1 Miami team. There's no way. But I think if you do it,
hey man, Ed Reed, we'd have taken Ed Reed down, man.
Oh my God, those guys would have killed us. Are you kidding me?
No.
The 06 Florida Gators beat us. What would the 0-1 Miami Hurricanes have done? Who's going to cover Shockey? Nobody.
James Laurinaitis,
Marcus
Freeman.
Yeah. Come on. But I think some quarterback names that you could look at for these guys to go after. Again, with Ryan, you go get these guys and whatever, but there's no guaranteeing these guys are ever going to play, because he might go out and get a superstar, who's been all conference, who's been an All-American. Again, like you look at Caleb Williams just on the Heisman, he was a transfer portal guy. So that's going to happen. Again, Ryan's aggression with quarterbacks, he's not going to stand still if that room isn't where he wants it. He's not going to just say, oh, well, hopefully, Kyle McCord or Devin Brown can get it done. So I don't know. Sometimes I think that the quarterback that's going to play for us isn't on the roster yet. I'm not saying that for next year, but I could definitely see that for the following year if one of those guys doesn't get it done. And again, like if I'm a quarterback and I can walk into an advantageous situation with Brandon Ennis, Cardell Tate, JJ Smith, Brian Hartline coaching the receivers, if he's still here, I think, because that's the thing is with a position coach, come on, at some point they're going to be a coordinator. At some point they're going to be a head coach. There's Brian's of the age where there's a lot of young offensive gurus that are head coaches that are Brian's age. Brian's he's young, but he's not that young. He's 30, 36. Yeah. So, Lincoln Riley was a head coach and he was 34. So it's not unheard of for a guy to go and run a show, but it's going to be interesting. TJ, what are your thoughts going forward? We're 2 weeks out from Georgia. How are you feeling about the game? Your boy Jaden Ballard is being featured a lot right now in practice. They're getting him the ball on some horizontal stuff, some jet sweeps, some stuff where I think that he's finally feeling healthier, which is great. But what are your thoughts 2 weeks out from the Georgia game? Obviously, we're going to be doing these every day. We're going to get reports every day. But how are you feeling heading into Georgia?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I think I'm on the fence here, and I do apologize, but I'm going to answer this for you here, and I got to wrap up. I got to head upstairs here and take care of the little one for the rest of the evening. I know we got a bunch of people rolling with us here on the stream, man. I appreciate everybody shooting some love over to me as well, talking about some of these things. He said they like my new sponsor, Labatt, so I'm going to keep bringing that around. No, I will tell you that. Of course, I want the Ohio State Buckeyes to win. I believe in them. I believe they have the capability to get it done. If I'm removing my heart from the equation, and I'm a betting man. At 6.5 points, I think Georgia beats them by a touchdown. So, if I'm putting the deed to my house up on a sports bet here, I'm taking Georgia. I think they still are a touchdown to 2 touchdowns better than the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I'm basing a lot of that off of not only what I saw all season, but those final 2 quarters of play against the Michigan Wolverines. Now, again, you've had some time to get things figured out. Whatever wrinkles they do, I think they're going to have to go down to Georgia and pull out all the stops, whether that means Jaden Ballard on a jet or a reverse, whatever it may be. Personally, as I've talked with our guy Ryan McClincy on some of our podcasts, you just got to continue to find a way to get the ball into Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands. He is the guy. Establish the run game early. I don't know who that's going to feature. I hope it's still a little bit of Chip Trainum. I think Dallin Hayden deserves to get some reps. And who's to say what's going on with the other 2 cats, Mayan Williams and Henderson? Do they come back and get some as well? But for me, as it sits right now, I want the Buckeyes to win. I will always pull for the Scarlet and Gray. I bleed Scarlet and Gray. But if I'm putting my house up on this thing, I'm taking the Georgia Bulldogs. At least they're still a 7 to 14 point better football team than the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Is that an emotional hedge where it's like if Ohio State wins, you're happy, but if Georgia wins, you get to keep your house?
I'm just saying, if I'm putting money on the line, that's just where I'm leaning.
That makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I
Hey,
like where
I
Ohio.
mean, you can't sit here, Kirk, and tell me that you know the Georgia is just on paper they are better.
Yeah, I mean they're undefeated. They won the SEC. They're the returning champions. Stetson Bennett won a
Yeah.
national title last year as quarterback. It's in Georgia. There's a lot of stuff going on, but at the same token, like these guys, we can throw the ball. We got to block them. But again, we have good pass blocking tackles in DeLon and PJ, so that gives me hope. Emeka, Jaden. But I think we're going to throw it deep on them. I really do. I mean, their last game that these guys played, they gave up 500 yards in the air. It's a lot of yardage. So and I know that they were ahead and whatever, and you can say it's garbage yards, but 500 is a lot of yards. It's a lot. And Bama, when they played him in the SEC championship last year, threw it deep on him. They threw it all over him. They had JMO, and again, the only guy that we have that can run like JMO is Jaden Ballard. So I think just from what I've heard in practice, we're going to be throwing it deep. And that's the thing that I'm really excited about because that changes everything. When you get away from these bubble screens and some of these little short things that we like to do, and you get into the deep shots, I think that's the way you got to do it. Well, TJ, you're going to wrap this thing up. I'll let you go. Appreciate you coming on tonight, big
Hey,
dog.
maybe Jaden Ballard will do a la Devin Smith. Rep a little Maslin Tiger love out there. Throw that deep ball. See what we can do.
Yeah, I think that's what we did against Bama. I mean, Bama had Jonathan Allen, who's $100 million defensive tackle in the middle, and those guys are hard to block. So we, the long runs that we got, Ezekiel's 85-yard run, that was a Buck sweep. We ran the old Perry Buck sweep to the sideline, and Evan Spencer cracked 2 guys, and it was just a magical play because Billy Price didn't even block anybody, and we went 85 yards to the house. So if you want to run right into the teeth of it, go ahead. I think it's stupid, but you get out on the edge, wear them out a little bit. Go hurry up. Don't let the guys rotate because they got a really deep D line, but it's not as deep if they don't get to rotate. They're going to get real tired. So I think that's the magic recipe. So any final words, TJ? I don't want to keep you from taking care of your kid, but
Is that Buck sweep look like Zach Slates and Kirk Barton pulling around, or maybe it was Josh Boyd
it was
pulling
something.
around there,
I was
man?
playing tight end, so I didn't get to pull very much.
You were
So,
gapping, man. No, hey, just some final thoughts, man. As always, it's go Bucks, man. I'll always rep Ohio State till the day I die, man. I hope they go down there and get it done. Find a way to win. Do what you got to do. Make sure that your mindset is a little bit more intensified than what it was in the second half against the Wolverines. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, to wrap this thing up, appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. This is a great stream. Really appreciate you. It's a Sunday nighter. We're gonna have Bill the Bank Green. He gets back tomorrow night. We're gonna have Nevadabuck on tomorrow. Both those guys are traveling this weekend, so you've seen a lot of me, which some of you guys like, some of you guys hate, whatever. But I appreciate you guys as always. Love the questions. If you could hit that like button, that's huge for us. Appreciate you guys as always. Again, we're on Buckeye Scoop nonstop. We had a great inside information nugget on what's going on in practice. Some really, really good stuff. It's nasty. You know, these kids got embarrassed, man. And it's hard when you're a player that's prideful and you get embarrassed and humiliated. You know, you can either roll over and die or you can fight back. And there have been a lot of fights in practice, a lot, which is good. That's music to my ears. When people say Saturday, there were multiple fights between the linemen, that makes me very happy because it means that these guys aren't just BSing around, taking it easy in practice. These guys are, you know, kind of chomping at the bit. Because again, when you get pushed around and humiliated like they did against Michigan, yeah, we get some tough guys, like some legit tough guys. There's some fake tough guys, but we got a lot of real tough guys, and they're not going to take client. And Ryan has been juiced up. Jim Knowles has been out of his mind, like the Exorcist is what the quote was that I got. So, you know, and again, does that mean anything? We'll see. But I mean, you know, coming off a loss, underdog, going to Georgia, chance to right the wrongs, chance to save the season. I like it. You know, I like that a lot more than being the favorite. I like that one more than everybody, you know, giving you adulation. I like that these guys were beat on pretty significantly by the national media, by our own fan base, by everybody, because you know that Michigan game was unacceptable. But these guys have a chance to right the wrong. So super excited about it. I'm heading on to BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys have not joined BuckeyeScoop.com, I really suggest it. It is a blast. Super, super, super active thread, super active message board. Appreciate you guys. A lot of access, a lot of inside stuff. Bank Green has been killing it lately. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. We are getting close, guys, really close. I can't believe that we're almost to Christmas. And after that, you'll blink and they'll be kicking the ball off in the Mercedes-Benz Dome for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So I hope you guys have a great night. Appreciate you guys tuning into this. Leave us a like, subscribe if you guys have not. That's always huge for us. And subscribe to Buckeye Scoop. It's a great Christmas gift. If you don't know what to get somebody, we have a gift option now. It's a fantastic thing. If you know someone who's a diehard Buckeye fan, they want to talk to diehard Buckeye fans, they want to talk to the insiders, give us a shot. I think you guys would love it because once people show up, man, they never leave. They just love it to death. And I get a lot of compliments on it. And I appreciate you guys that leave us with those. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks. Appreciate you, Buckeye Nation. And thank you so much, Scoop family. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a nice night. Beat the Bulldogs.